I took a class once in after seminary in ministering to congregations that had experienced misconduct. And the professor was Reverend Dr. Deborah Pope Lance. And one of the things that she told us was, when it comes to self-care, if it doesn't feel indulgent, it's not actually self-care, it's simply maintenance. If it's not indulgent, it's not actually care, it's maintenance. We've got 2 days remaining before the end of voting in this year's presidential election. You may have noticed that nerves everywhere are stretched a little thin. People are at their limit for fear and chaos and anxiety. It is enough to make us want to crawl into a blanket fort with a good book, perhaps a cat, some snacks, and a fuzzy blanket. It is natural to want to escape in times of fear and anxiety. Intellectually, we understand the need for a Sabbath. Thanks to the organized labor movement, most workers in the US, or many, maybe not most anymore, have a 40-hour week and at least 1 or 2 days off each week because rest is important. Unplugging from whatever you call our busy lives is vital to our health. Now, trees and plants and some animals hibernate through the winter. This is partly because there's no food available to them in those cold months, but it's also to provide sufficient rest to be able to spring up and out again when the sun and warm temperatures return. In this election year, we have been on a nonstop diet of adrenaline and anxiety. We have had no rest, no Sabbath, no hibernation, no escape from the assault on our adrenal system. And we have reason to be scared. We have good reasons to seek escape. My colleagues who are professional religious educators in the Liberal Religious Educators Association, otherwise known as LREDA, which is Sarah Kelly's professional organization, have themed their annual fall convention around the idea of pillow forts. This week, which I think is a stroke of genius, beginning on Wednesday, professional religious educators in Unitarian Universalism will attend their virtual conference from a variety of pillow forts around North America. Some will be made in people's homes, some will be made in churches or hotels where educators can gather in small groups to share the experience, but all will have some version of a blanket fort. Because religious educators, perhaps more than anyone, understand the need for shelter and escape when the world gets scary. And that need exists for adults as well as for our children. All people have the need to feel safe, held, secure, hidden away from the troll that lives under the bridge. We all need escape. And there is no shame in needing to take a break. And there's no shame in taking care of yourself. In fact, exhaustion and overwhelm are the tactics of fascist regimes. They blast hateful stuff in every direction at all times so that there is no clear escape. It is as if we are surrounded with no support, completely isolated, and the hope is that we will simply fold, give up, concede, and perhaps go hide somewhere while they celebrate victory. In this situation, self-care is not just a good idea, it is an act of revolution. We need to take care of ourselves, yes. We need to work, yes. We need to work hard. But to take care of ourselves in this situation is not just an act of resistance. It is an act of rebellion against the cruelty that threatens to take over our world. So this week, as often as you need, go ahead and withdraw to a safe space. Retreat into whatever kind of blanket fort you wish to create, real or metaphorical. If you want to drape blankets over the living room furniture and curl up in the space underneath, go ahead and do that. Bring your phone, though, so that if you get stuck, you can call for help. I considered this, and I thought, I could get down there, but I don't know if I could get back up. Bring some chocolate, maybe, if that helps. Maybe a good novel you've been meaning to read or an old favorite that you love to revisit. Stay hydrated. I'm not opposed to adults consuming adult things, but make sure you stay hydrated while you do so. On Tuesday, I'm going to do my best to stay away from the television news. I may go putter in my garage. I may bake or cook. In the evening, before the polls close, I will have dinner with some folks who will not have the TV on. They have promised. And after 8 p.m., I'll plug back in, say prayers of thanks for Steve Kornacki, and watch as the math is calculated. The world will still be there when we emerge from our blanket forts. But for a little while, we can take care of ourselves before it is time to rise and ride again. My prayer is that you'll be able to take care of yourself as well. Do they? Bishop Barber cited this passage in a television interview this week, and I have met Bishop Barber and listened to him preach and had the honor to do the offering ask at a service where he preached. I've studied his work, and I know that he is a good, kind, moral Christian in the model of that humble carpenter's son from Judea. So when he offers a bit of scripture to think about, it reminds me that not all of the words in the Bible have been co-opted by Christian nationalism. You see, the scriptures are a source of wisdom, not the only one, mind you, but yes, one of the several that are foundational to our faith. There's a lot of good stuff in those dusty old tomes, and while some of it makes no sense in our 21st century world, there are some real truths that stand the test of time. Most of them have to do with issues of kindness, compassion, love, generosity, and advocacy for the disempowered. Compiled as a metaphorical and narrative history of the Hebrew people, the books of what is now called the Old Testament were written thousands of years ago. But this passage from Proverbs does a fair job of describing the risks that face us in this election. We all know the choice before us. Our choice is between someone who speaks untruths about and someone who speaks of a future. One who speaks of justice and equity and access to opportunity, and one that speaks of rage and insult and retribution. One candidate has been seen talking to children, especially young girls, for their words and telling them to use their words and their brains to accomplish good and great things. The other prefers not to touch anyone. One candidate vows to prosecute lawbreakers, and the other surrounds himself with them. One candidate has devoted her life to public service in roles that have increased in stature and responsibility as she has matured. The other has never served anyone but himself, and as far as I can tell, has never matured past the emotional age of a spoiled toddler. One candidate will secure bodily autonomy and medical choice for people who may become pregnant, and the other wants to control women's bodies like they are commodities to be used and consumed by men. One candidate celebrates the diversity of the United States with all of its beautiful colors and faiths and shapes and sizes and loves and cultures, and the other sees a white man's land at risk of invasion by inferior races and religions. I will not tell you how to vote. I will merely describe what is real. Telling you how to vote would be illegal, but also arrogant and stupid. UUs do not take well to being told what to do about anything. Also, you are smart enough to know what is before us. There is no moral equivalency between these two. There is no good people on both sides. One is kind, one is cruel. This is not hyperbole, it is demonstrated truth. One is compassionate, one is a malignant narcissist. One seeks to lift people up, one seeks to trod upon others. Morally, there is only one choice. Now, I would like a gentle word with those who have historically aligned themselves with the party that has now morphed into the American Fascist Party. That was once the party of Lincoln, but has gone far afield from that righteous beginning. It was the party of Dwight D. Eisenhower, the great general to become a president in the U.S. He cautioned us against depending on war making to drive our economy. This latest guy sure ain't him. This was once the party of Ronald Reagan, who, for all of his sins, and they were many, gave amnesty to hundreds of thousands of undocumented migrants and developed a path for citizenship for others. Okay, so it was also the party of Nixon, but honestly, even that guy pales in comparison to the flat-out evil represented in the current situation. Traditions can be hard to break, but sometimes they must be broken. There is no moral reason available to justify a vote for the bad guy here. There is none. He has stated clearly what he intends to do, and we have seen from the past that he intends to do it all if he can find a way. No amount of tradition or family history, even if your great-great-great-granduncle's cousin was related to Abraham Lincoln, even then it is not worth violating the principles of compassion and humanity to vote for a monster. Make no doubt he is a monster. And for those who think that a vote for this guy will protect their nest egg or whatever riches you want to hand down to your children, I ask, what moral price are you willing to pay for that protection? How many kids in cages are acceptable to protect your wealth? How many migrant families in containment camps is tolerable so that you can save your treasure? How many women must bleed out in hospital parking lots for your 401k to be safe? How many political enemies must be stood before firing squads before you say enough? If you have an income of less than about $500,000 a year, a vote for the bad guy will not actually make a significant difference in your tax rate. It just won't. If you make more than $500,000 a year, then you can afford an accountant to protect your investments. Also, if you're bringing in that kind of money, I'd like to have a word about your pledge. There is one thing left for us to do this season. We must vote. We must vote, and we must help our family and friends to vote. Bring people to the polls, go knock on doors this afternoon, do what you can. But it all boils down to the counting that happens on Tuesday and beyond, and which team has the best lawyers after that. To sit this one out and not vote is not an option for people who consider themselves to be ethical, moral humans. To vote for the bad guy is a vote for fascism, and that is a name they have not denied. It is a vote for babies in cages, for U.S. military forces being deployed against protesters, a vote for soldiers breaking into migrant homes in the night and hauling everyone off to camps for deportation. You know this. You cannot pretend that you don't know. In Germany in the 1930s, there were people who said, we just didn't know. Today we have the internet and 24/7 coverage of all of the news. We cannot say that we didn't know. Now, if you voted for that guy the first time he ran, you may be excused for thinking that he might have grown into the position. You can no longer claim that belief. We all know better. He grew into nothing but his own ego. And I will tell you that if you vote for him now, you will not be comfortable if he wins. You will not. Because his policies will be yours. His actions will be yours. His hate will be yours. You are allowed, however, to say at any point, I can't support this. Even if you did, even if you used to, even if you once did, even if you were unsure, you can now at any point say, this has gone too far. And while the best time to say that was a while ago, the second best time is today. Who you vote for in this election will determine how you feel in the future. If you vote for hate, that hate will follow you. If you vote for cruelty, that cruelty will affect you and the people you love. If you vote for wealth, those riches will bear the bitter heartbreak of Midas's curse, the curse that took from him all that he loved in his pursuit of gold. If you vote for hope, however, that hope will be yours. If you vote for compassion, your heart will feel that grace. If you vote for the future, it will be yours to embrace, to reinforce. If you vote for kindness, then humanity will be blessed by that effort. For kindness does not evaporate in the face of cruelty, but lingers in the heart when all else seems lost. You will notice that I have not named a specific candidate this morning. That is to protect our nonprofit status. I also have not told you how to vote. I have described the options in terms of morality, in terms of history, in terms of example, and I have described the significance of the differences between the two options. I have suggested what would be the likely outcome of how the votes may pan out. How you vote is between you and whatever higher power or source of spiritual life you have. I will never ask how you voted. You will know that. And that will be enough. We each and all have the capacity to know right from wrong and act accordingly. We each and all will carry the weight of our actions with us always. This is our one last good chance to save democracy in the world from this latest version of fascism. Let us not waste that chance. Vote this week for your values, for your morals, for our children, for our women, for our loved ones, for our world. Amen. Thank you. I invite you now to rise in body